Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Crumwitty, Dean of the Architecture Division at CCA. On behalf of CCA, I'd like to welcome you today as we remember and celebrate the life of Professor Sandra Vivanco. As we're gathered virtually, please note that to best view the event, enter full screen mode by selecting full screen under the view button at the top right of your screen. If you'd like, you can also activate closed captioning in the bottom bar of your Zoom window. And please feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. At CCA, we understand land acknowledgement as a transformative act meant to confront our place on native lands and build mindfulness of our present participation in colonial legacies. California College of the Arts campuses are located in Huichin and Yelamu, also known as Oakland and San Francisco, respectively, on the unceded territories of Chochenyo and Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who have continuously lived upon this land since time immemorial. We recognize the historic discrimination and violence inflicted upon Indigenous peoples in California and the Americas, including their forced removal from ancestral lands and the deliberate and systematic destruction of their communities and culture. CCA honors Indigenous peoples, past, present, and future, here and around the world, and we wish to pay respect to local elders, including those from the lands on which you're joining us virtually today. Today, we'll be sharing a video collection of remembrances of Sandra from her friends, colleagues, students, and family. Please turn off your own camera during this time. Before we start the video, which is 54 minutes long, I'd like to introduce Tammy Rae Carlin, the Provost at California College of the Arts, to welcome you and share some news with all of us. Tammy Rae.
Thank you, Keith. And it's my privilege to be able to, on behalf of California College of the Arts, welcome everybody to this tribute to Sandra. And I would like to say that Sandra played a really key role in my own trajectory at CCA. She was a mentor and somebody who I went to for advice constantly. I miss her deeply, and her legacy is with me personally forever. And I get to share this news. I'm very honored to be able to share the news that on March 16th, the Board of Trustees at CCA awarded Sandra Professor Emeritus in Memoriam. She was scheduled to go up for this honor this year, and we continued with that, and her family were notified a couple weeks ago of this. She joins a long list of faculty who hold this honor at CCA, and her legacy with CCA will continue with this. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the video that has been produced. And I want to, again, thank everybody for their contributions, and I look forward to it.
It is my pleasure to share with you an overview of the work life of Sandra Vivanco as an architect, teacher, and scholar. It's challenging to summarize such a prolific career, not only because of the number of architectural projects and competitions, articles and papers, exhibitions and teaching, and honors and awards listed on her 27-page academic vita, but also because, as you will hear today, everything she did was interconnected, intellectually and emotionally. Indeed, as you know, Sandra's life was a colorful tapestry, not a compartmentalized list. Sandra Isabella Vivanco was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, but her family moved back to Lima, Peru when she was 1.5, and she grew up there. She also spent periods of her childhood in Ayacucho, a city high in the Peruvian Andes. At 16, Sandra was admitted to the National University of Engineering in Lima, where she studied for 2 years before moving to San Francisco in 1979. Once here, she enrolled at the City College of San Francisco before transferring to Berkeley to finish undergraduate work in architecture. Sandra then headed to New York, where she completed her Master of Architecture degree with honors from Columbia University's Graduate School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation. Prior to opening her own office, Sandra practiced architecture in New York, Japan, and Portugal. Most notably, in 1990, she worked for the Pritzker Prize-winning Portuguese architect Álvaro Siza. Sandra founded her firm A+D stands for Architecture and Design, in 1994, with affordable housing and community building as its focus. As one of only a few Latinx-owned architecture firms in the country, A+D explored the representation of cultural identity as design inspiration for new and invigorated public spaces. The work of A+D has been recognized globally, with many of Sandra's projects featured in exhibitions, magazines, and books. Most recently, Sandra was the architect of record for the Mexican Museum of San Francisco, due to open later this year. Sandra was a member of the American Institute of Architects San Francisco chapter, where she was a leader and mentor of the Latinx in Architecture group, and was co-founder of the AIA Equity by Design Committee. She was also a member of the National Organization of Minority Architects and the Organization of Women Architects. Alongside her work as an architect, Sandra held a joint appointment as Professor of Architecture and of Critical Ethnic Studies at the California College of the Arts. Before starting at CCA in 1994, she taught at Barnard, Columbia University, and UC Berkeley. And later, she also taught at the Escola da Cidade in Sao Paulo and the Universidad Ricardo Palma in Lima. She brought these networks to CCA along with her deep knowledge of affordable housing and her rare talent at community engagement. Sandra's tireless advocacy and mentorship of women and people of color reached all areas of her teaching and practice, and included formal as well as informal roles. In critical ethnic studies, she served a term as program chair, and in architecture, she was faculty advisor to CCA's National Organization of Minority Architects student chapter. At CCA, Sandra launched and led a series of summer travel studios to Latin America. In total, she led 8 of these trips, 3 to Peru, 3 to Brazil, and 2 to Mexico. Each of these programs also included collaborations at local universities. Among her students and the colleagues who sometimes joined her, these life-changing adventures were known for their exhausting, exhilarating schedules of eye-opening days and lively, culture-filled evenings. In addition to teaching studios and seminars, Sandra co-founded the CCA Architecture Build Lab in 2014, formalizing her already existing design build studios as a platform for community engagement. Among Sandra's recent Build Lab projects with her students are permanent built contributions at 826 Valencia's Mission Bay location and at Plaza Adelante, a community service and arts center designed by Sandra for Latinx immigrants. In 2017, Sandra received the Education Award from the AIA San Francisco Community Alliance Awards Program, and in 2019, Sandra was awarded the National Diversity Achievement Award by the Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture. As a scholar, through writing and public lectures, Sandra focused on raising awareness of women Latin American designers and architects. She is known for introducing the work of Brazilian-Italian architect Lino Bobardi to the U.S. audience when she brought an exhibit of Bobardi's work to CCA in 1997. As a Fulbright scholar in 2003, Sandra researched the work of Doris Clark, the first Peruvian woman architect. And upon receiving the Lebrun Travel Grant from AIA New York in 2018, Sandra lived in Mexico City for 4 months while researching the work of expatriate Cuban designer Clara Porcet. At the end of her extensive academic vita, Sandra lists languages: fluency in English, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. Reading and speaking knowledge, French. And I know she still had up her sleeve some Japanese phrases. Indeed, Sandra was a citizen of the world, and with her global view, she immeasurably widened the horizons of her students, colleagues, and friends through her research, practice, and teaching. As you will hear in each of the following tributes, Sandra did everything, personal and professional, with joy, generosity, and gusto. She lit up the room with her sense of humor, joyous smile, and infectious laugh. She was a devoted daughter, sister, mother, wife, and friend. She was a lover of good food and a perfectly made pisco sour. She was an accomplished samba dancer and capoeirista. And at a party, she was always the first on the dance floor, especially if the music was salsa. Yes, Sandra always embraced an opportunity to gather with friends. And so we gather today, and Sandra would enjoy every minute of what's to come.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hello, friends, colleagues, and the family of our dear Sandra. Gathered today in friendship to honor our collaborator, mentor, and always inspiration are the founding core team members of Equity by Design, which is a committee of AIE San Francisco. Rosa Chang, founding member, Annalisa Pitts, and Julia Mendel. Not to say that we haven't had other collaborators, Saskia comes to mind and Antonia comes to mind, but tonight we wanted to have a little briefing from the core team. In the minutes that follow, each of us will share a little bit of a memory of Sandra with you. So let's start with Rosa. Anything to share about our friend Sandra?
Sure. Beyond her amazing championship of the work that we did together with Equity by Design through the many symposiums that she participated in, I was honored and privileged when she reached out to me to help her with a letter of recommendation for a scholarship program, a travel fellowship actually, as part of AIA New York. The Bruns Scholarship was a travel fellowship for $7,500, and it allowed her to continue her amazing work in raising up other Latina women in architecture. So the title of her submission was The Feminine and the Modern, 6 Pioneer Architects in Latin America. And she was fortunate enough to get to win that travel fellowship in 2018. And she was able to go and visit places of famous architects in Latin America, Clara Porcet, Carmen Portinho, Itala Fulvia Villa, Luz Sobrino, Lino Bobardi, Luz Amorocho. And so it is quite appropriate that we honor Sandra going forward and the memory of her work together. There's a lot still to be done. There was a contribution to her scholarship program with CCA, and she has a Wikipedia page that needs a lot of loving support to keep it alive and present. So we look forward to continuing to honor her. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Annalisa, do you have a memory of Sandra?
Sure, and I'll share a sort of a smaller memory. But the first time that I met Sandra was during an Equity by Design event in 2016, where we had both shared stories during the event publicly. And I spoke about something that had happened in school to me that frankly was a hard experience, and shared some sort of, we'll call it unfinished work, which would be a kind thing, but not the kind of thing architects usually show one another. And Sandra made a point of coming up to me afterwards and talking about the work, and actually talking about some of the merits that she saw in the work that I was not at all proud of, that I hadn't seen. And she also made a point of talking to me about how tough experiences can help us grow stronger and can help us be better architects. And I just remember thinking that this profession needs so many more educators like her.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julia, do you have a memory?
So when I think of Sandra, I think of her amazing presence. She had this really lovely, distinct combination of incredible warmth. I feel like she's one of the warmest people I've ever met, and also kind of elegance. And she was really striking, and she very self-possessed, almost regal. And I feel like that was just something I wanted to share. But then if you think about her contributions and her work, it really fits, because she had such resolute vision about what she wanted to accomplish in the face of various adversities, and just a sense of herself. And at the same time, she really valued her relationships and thought very strongly about that and about rising with others. So, yeah. Lillian?
Oh, it's hard to talk about a friend, a dear friend like Sandra. We just have a minute, and I wanted to maybe just start with this morning. I read and listened to the recipient of Sandra Scholarship the very first time it was awarded. And it was interesting in all of your messages that you spoke about the light that Sandra was, and the individual's name, her middle name is Luz, which is light in Spanish. So I find it incredibly moving that as we gather today, Sandra is clearly the light that continues to shine in between us. So in the minute that I have, it's been a pleasure to remember Sandra and to have her memory and her touching my life for over 30 years. It's amazing that someone can have such an influence. And in this month where we're celebrating women around the world and we're trying to build the next generation of professionals, it's beautiful to remember how much she touched all of us in both academia and practice. So thank you, Sandra, and thank you to your colleagues, and thank you to your family who will continue to live in your legacy. Sandra, you had a brilliant mind. You're massively generous in your heart in impeccable fashion, as has been mentioned. And there was something piercing about your brown and your curious eyes. So may we always look forward and honor you, and know that your spirit does live within us, and us as members of Equity by Design, maybe always live with the best of your lessons and carry them forward. So thank you, and may we always celebrate you. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye. We did it.
On March 31, 2020, Sandra Vivanco, Bay Area architect, educator, and a longtime friend of the AIA San Francisco chapter, passed away in her home after a year-long battle with cancer. In that same year, we celebrated Sandra and her incredible body of work by dedicating the Community Alliance Education Award in Sandra's honor. Her commitment to advancing equity in the field, inclusiveness, and design excellence will always be remembered, and through the Sandra I. Vivanco Community Alliance Education Award, her legacy will continue to inspire students, peers, and the community that extends beyond the boundaries of the pedagogy.
Since LEA SF was first founded, Sandra was a huge contributor and mentor. Her energy, positivity, and enthusiasm were present in every word she said. Sandra's contributions to LEA SF brought great integrity to the membership, and LEA SF grew stronger to the point where we were the strongest LEA committee over the years. She helped us connect with many like-minded people and some of the best Latinx design professionals, not only in the Bay Area, but internationally.
I met Sandra in some conversations about the Mexican Museum project in San Francisco. We both collaborated with Leah in bringing together the show Perspectivas, and she was always willing to share her knowledge. She was an agent of culture and liked to be involved in different levels. She was not shy in giving her opinion and pushing things to make them happen, always with a smile. Always easy to have a good conversation with, a good mentor that I will miss.
I am here to remember Sandra Vivanco. I met Sandra many years before we ended up being faculty at CCA. We were both part of a group of Latin Americans, mostly Venezuelans, who loved to dance, and I was always trying to mimic what Sandra was able to do. She really caught up the Caribbean rhythm, and I did not. I couldn't, but I always tried to copy her. Many years after, we ended up being faculty at CCA. although we didn't have a lot of time to share at CCA because we were always busy teaching and doing our work outside CCA, every time we did get together, it was wonderful to share how we were thinking about teaching, about our classes, how we were willing to include the history of Latin America and Latin American artists. I also learned how to see Sandra through the eyes of the students who came to my classes after taking her classes. And it was clear that Sandra was bringing to the world of architecture and design a concept of diversity, encouraging the students to see a city as a mapping of diversity. And that was a great lesson to learn from her and to continue remembering that that was a huge contribution of her vision to teaching and to architecture. Thank you.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be chair of critical ethnic studies. When I was an undergrad and in graduate school, I was often the only person in my classes with a very particular ethnic identity, but one that is quite common in Latin America. I certainly never had a professor who came from where I came from, even, remotely shared the culture that I came from. Fast forward to when I first became chair of what was then known as diversity studies, I contacted Professor Vivanco to ask her some questions. She was not only generous enough to answer my questions, but she spent several afternoons over tea with me, giving me the lowdown on what occurred during her tenure as chair. She shared crucial information and helped me to strategize a plan for the growth of the program. Without her guidance and support, critical ethnic studies would not have the foundation to advocate for a discipline-specific name change or broaden our curriculum. In the short time that I got to know her, she became the mentor that I never had as a student, but the mentor that I needed as an artist and as a woman of color in academic administration. Professor Vivanco shows us that you can be a mother, you can be a partner, you can be professionally successful, but also have compassion and lift up the sisters who come after you. The absence of her presence in the classroom for our BIPOC students who are aspiring to be architects and change their communities is profound. But I will take her lessons of generosity and kindness and mentorship, and I will pay it forward. Thank you.
Sandra Vivanco was a force for good in the world. A passionate educator and collaborator, she was deeply committed to her students, her colleagues, and her communities. Her belief that what we do matters as humans and as educators and architects was inspiring, as was her commitment to using her talents and energies to build a more just and a more beautiful world. She was an outspoken and tireless advocate for diversity and equity in architecture and all things, ardent in her belief that architecture should serve everyone, not just those with the power and resources to commission architects and build buildings. In this, she reminds each of us that we can, through our work and actions, make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. She set a high bar for all of us in always demonstrating, through her teaching, practice, and comradeship, the beneficial change that we should seek to achieve through our work. Most directly, Sandra embodied the values that we at CCA aspire to as a community of teachers and learners. She leaves a legacy carried forward by her students, colleagues, and friends that reminds me, that we can and should and must always strive to do and to be better.
Sandra was a vital and dedicated member of the CCA architecture faculty. And if I could say, on a more personal note, she was the reason I got involved with teaching in the architecture program at CCA. It started, as with many of you, by her inviting me to a review. This generosity of spirit and big-hearted nature was expressed through all of her actions at CCA. Being inclusive and bringing more voices to the table was the gift she brought to this place through her joint appointment with Architecture and Diversity Studies. Through her seminar, she enriched the lives of many students across the college with her thought-provoking topics that dealt with multicultural issues and the legacy of colonialism. Through the architecture studio she taught, which I played a part in, she focused on topics near and dear to her heart, specifically the Mexican Museum, which ran as an integrated building design studio called Mole. Issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion that are central to our discussion today were always central to what she taught and how she taught it. To me, Sandra was a true colleague, a true friend, and a true spirit for our times.
Hello, my name is Jose Brunner, and I'm here to honor a legacy of our dear colleague and friend, Sandra Vivanco. I will always be immensely grateful to Sandra for providing a framework in which to navigate seamlessly between cultivating empathy as an educator, being a true architect in community, and a devoted parent. Sandra was the type of educator who extended her knowledge of the Global South to all of her students by actually taking them there, immersing us in these cultural contexts. She was also tremendously devoted to the communities in which she built. She understood the importance of being present for your local and adjacent communities with a focus on minoritized peoples. And she was always able to sort of intertwine those multiple realities with a very real and human aspect of being a parent, bringing her girls along wherever she went, and always pointing towards them as her being her greatest source of inspiration and motivation as well. So I can't express enough how grateful I am to her for being such a strong influence. I will miss her every single day.
Hi, I'm Rafaela Macias, and I'm here to honor Sandra and the incredible legacy that she has left us. I am forever grateful to have met her and to have known her as the fierce life force that she was and continues to be. She was initially my professor at CCA, then became my mentor, and eventually became part of my extended family. She was the person that inspired me to not give up, to find someone that had that shared commitment to lifting up the unrecognized and the underserved, and that shared passion for making the field of architecture more diverse, more accessible, more equitable. It was incredibly uplifting and inspiring and to find that in someone. And have so much gratitude to have had that relationship with her. And we need people like Sandra in this world, and especially in institutions, educational institutions like CCA. We need people like her who fight the fight and really connect to others, So I'm constantly inspired by her and her work and her values, and I can only hope that I can continue to pass that on and share that with the next generation.
Hello, my name is Sergey, and meeting Sandra back in 2006 was an honor for me. It literally changed the course of my personal and professional life. Learning about all her accomplishments and learning that she was a Latin architect, Peruvian just like me, was astonishing in the most wonderful way. A year later, I had an internship at her firm, and it was an awesome experience. We worked together in multiple residential projects within the Bay Area for the Latinx community, and some even won awards. She taught me that in order to achieve great design, you don't need crazy amounts of money, but instead a good thought process behind. and that good design should not be a privilege for some because it is a necessity for all. I learned so much about the profession then, and I still apply that knowledge now. From that point forward, she became somebody I look up to. She became my mentor, and she became my friend. And for all of that, I'm grateful, and I'm always going to be.
We were fortunate enough to have Sandra as a professor at CCA and a mentor after we graduated. She's one of those professors who had that life-changing effect. Who could get you to open up and push you enough to realize your potential. That's who she was for us, and certainly others. You could feel how driven and passionate she was, how much she loves her children and life. She celebrated every aspect of her culture and always brought social justice issues to the forefront.
She had a reputation for being firm, but understanding. You could tell it came from a place of deep care and concern for her students. She would push us to show up and give it our all, no excuses. And we knew it was because she cared for us and she wanted us to succeed. It was as if she could see our potential at our core, and she invested in us and elevated us. We'll miss her. It feels like we can see her reflection in our passion, our ambition, our deeply rooted care for those around us.
Hi, I'm Rosanna Harding. I'm class of 2007, and I met Sandra in 2005 as a transfer student on the first day of Design Studio. I was 16 at the time. I was immediately drawn to her as both a bold female architect, but also for her gentle human qualities as a person. Our relationship grew over the years through study abroad. On those trips, she would find ways to completely immerse us as students of architecture into the beautiful places that she cared so deeply about. This shined through everything she did. She was much more than just an educator. She was nurturing both intellectually and also personally. She helped craft who I am and set my life on a trajectory that could not have been without her influence. I feel extremely lucky to have known her and so grateful for her mentorship.
One of the last things Sandra shared with me was that her passion had been to open the world to students at CCA by architectural design studios that traveled and worked for several weeks in Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Rio, and other parts of Latin America, often with her daughters Ima and Sofia as junior assistants. But she also shared those remarkable experiences with friends and family like me. Losing Sandra, we lost a gifted teacher and thinker. Her scholarship on Latin American architecture, in particular, women like Clara Porcet and Doris Clark, was unparalleled and created an invaluable resource for architects and students and scholars worldwide. Her exhibition on the iconic works of Brazilian architect Lino Bobardi in the 90s was the first in the U.S. Always ahead of the curve, her commitment to make architecture for those communities under distress from inequities and threats of displacement, whether in SF's mission or Rio's Rocinha Favela, was central to her pedagogy and foundational to her design practice A+D. She made a difference in so many lives, and we will all continue her good works. And anyone who has spent time and or traveled with Sandra knew she could pack 48 hours into 24 without missing a samba beat. Our lives were all made better for having her with us. We'll keep her effervescent spirit close to her heart, always. Sandrinha, até amanhã, Mabel.
Meus amigos, eu vou falar português para ser mais preciso sobre o que quero dizer sobre nossa querida amiga Sandra Vivanco. Eu vou ler um pequeno trecho da última carta, a última mensagem que enviei para ela um pouco antes de sua morte. Sandra, não precisa dizer o quanto gostamos de você. Nossa sedimentada amizade, inclusive, se expandiu para nossos filhos. Mas queremos também dizer que admiramos sua vida de agitadora cultural, sua luta por um mundo melhor, mais justo, mais confortável para todos. Luta que praticou com as ferramentas da arquitetura, seja no ensino, como formadora de profissionais mestra apaixonada, no projeto ou na crítica com sua escrita. Começamos nossa amizade em torno da obra de Lina Bobardi, figura que você também tomou para si como grande exemplo humano de vida. Bem, eu acho que nós devemos ficar com o melhor que Sandra nos deixou, que é essa vontade de mudar o mundo, essa vontade, essa generosidade de trazer toda a América Latina para o primeiro mundo, para os Estados Unidos, para a Europa, não é? Ela sempre acreditou na contribuição dos países ibero-americanos e lutou por isso. Foi uma mulher fantástica, defendeu sempre a participação das mulheres na vida, na construção das sociedades. A gente poderia falar de Sandra infinitamente, a gente tem muito para falar sobre ela. Eu ficaria com todas essas lições, os exemplos, as viagens que ela fazia com os estudantes para os países, para mostrar a realidade de outros países, principalmente da América Latina. Esteve aqui na Escola da Cidade 3 vezes, por 3 anos diferentes, com seus alunos, mostrando a realidade brasileira. Essa crença é que nos motiva. Nós queremos que essa mensagem de Sandra seja levada adiante, com particularmente a doçura que ela sempre teve. Viva! Viva Sandra!
In summer of 2018, I had the great pleasure to partner with Sandra in leading a travel studio to Mexico with 11 CCA students. We visited countless sites in and around Mexico City and Oaxaca, benefiting greatly from Sandra's deep knowledge of Mexico's layered histories, her seemingly inexhaustible energy, and her remarkable ability to talk her way into any architectural landmark, no matter how off-limits to visitors it may seem. The second half of the studio consisted of a design-build workshop with students at UNAM. In the months prior to the trip, Sandra forged a partnership with 3 local architects who became close collaborators in framing and executing this ambitious workshop. This collaboration with Elena Tudela and Marcela Delgado of UNAM, Diego Ricalde of Estudio MMX, and the 29 architecture students from both CCA and UNAM remains one of the most meaningful experiences of my teaching career. I'm so grateful to Sandra for making it happen and for bringing us together.
The CCA and UNAM students were given corn husks, loteria cards, and market bags, and were asked to team up, prototype, think with their hands, overcome language barriers, problem solve, material scarcity, think up aggregation strategies for transforming these unwieldy everyday materials into huge, concept-driven, beautiful gallery installations open to the public. All of this in just a few days, and not once did I see Sandra daunted by this prospect. She was confident, determined, and ready to lead, always inspiring us with her smile and big heart.
The Material Cultures Workshop with CCA and UNAM, coordinated by Sandra, has been by far one of the most exciting, productive, and fun academic exchange projects I've ever participated in. Sandra became a bridge for UNAM students to get to know different design approaches towards our own culture, and it also represented a bridge for us professors to get to know each other's work and to spark many other acquaintances and interesting conversations. This was just the beginning of several collaborations, such as sharing an article, lectures from CCA amazing professors in Mexico, including Adam Marcus and Neeraj Bhatia, being invited as guest critic to student work at CCA, discussions on her research on Clara Porcet, or new plans for workshops with Lisa Finley, all led to this expanded new network of people across the continent that will undoubtedly miss her.
It seems to me that I knew Sandra even before meeting her. When she first called me to talk about the idea of making a collaborative workshop in Mexico, the conversation over the phone made clear to me that Sandra was a very enthusiastic person, someone who knew how to make things happen and with a particular passion for design culture, but, more importantly, a particular appetite and capacity to create bonds and friendship. I am sure that it will not be only me to always remember that lady with an amazing generosity and an endless smile.
I first really got to know Sandra when she invited me to teach an architecture studio with her at CCA, and some of my abiding memories of her will always be about her commitment to her students. For Sandra, teaching art and architecture was an act of joy, and perhaps even more than that, a form of service to her community. I know that her commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in education goes all the way back to when she herself was a student of architecture, when she was a leader in the Chicano Architecture Students Association. Of course, I didn't get to know her until many years later as a friend and colleague, but when I did, I recognized immediately a person of deep conviction and boundless generosity. These two qualities would propel her into many different leadership positions, both big and small. Sandra and I worked together on the Community Alliance Awards program at the local chapter of the American Institute of Architects, where I witnessed her commitment to elevating practitioners of diverse backgrounds in and adjacent to the field, and also her work in the Latinos in Architecture group, where she put on an annual exhibition called Perspectivas, hosted by CCA as part of AIA's Architecture in the City Festival. As a professor of architecture and diversity studies, she centered the work of women in her teaching and her scholarship, and especially focusing on the work of Latinx artists and architects for whom she was recognized as an authority. Her design build projects gave students incredible experiences working in, embedded with communities. For example, the PG&E site in the Bayview, or working with youth development organizations like 826 Valencia, where she used architecture to help create an environment that would help young people develop their literacy skills. I will miss you, Sandra, but your spirit and your passion lives on in every person whose life that you touched, especially your former students and colleagues. Thank you for sharing your verve and your fullness of heart and your passion. It lives on in each of us.
The last time I saw Sandra was in Mexico City. I was there on a business trip, and we made plans to see each other. We had dinner. It's great. She was, as usual, overflowing with excitement and enthusiasm. She loved her new temporary home. She had made a lot of contacts, had really made it her own. She told me about the progress on her research, but she was already concocting all these plans, curricular projects, studios, etc., and was also imagining all kinds of possibilities for collaborations between CCA and the University of Miami. And we talked about this great evening, and I was, of course, charmed by her typical excitement about life and work and everything around her. Later, I realized that this meeting happened after she had been diagnosed with cancer, but none of this was at all apparent, and she didn't let this get into that infectious, continuous excitement about what she's doing and her appreciation of all the opportunities life gave her. We will miss her tremendously, especially for that incredible, positive, optimistic view of life.
We all looked forward to the AIA tour, the gathering, the exploration of the houses, and the sharing of time together.
This is Sarah Wilmer. Sandra and I were dear friends for many years. We met when she first started teaching at CCA. I was teaching there as well, but eventually moved on, but our friendship continued.
This is Jennifer Asselstein, the undergraduate director at the Academy of Art University. Sandra's work as an educator was inspiring so many ways, but I want to speak to Design Build in particular. As we were starting our program and Design Build for our students, her work at CCA was so inspiring to me personally. It really gave evidence that no project was too small for it to have an impact both on the community that it served and the students that were given the opportunity to build for that community. I saw Sandra present these projects that she had been involved in at conferences where educators gathered. Design Build has been a growing commitment among architecture schools across the United States. Today, as we honor Sandra, I look forward to a future in which these projects continue to thrive. And Sandra's work was incredibly important to the process of giving light to these types of projects. Thank you.
And so over the years, Sandra joined a group of women that I gather together every year in September for the AIA home tour. Yes, we are the Designing Women group. We're architects, landscape architects, a graphic designer, a photographer, a painter, a floral designer, a ceramicist, and a doctor. She folded into this group seamlessly and expanded all of our friendships and perceptions of the city of design through this wonderful event each year.
My story as the daughter of an architect begins early on. My mom would take me with her to studio at CCA in my baby carrier, place me under one of the desks, and proceed to give crit for a few hours while I slept. I remember going to CCA on the weekends, and while she worked, my sister and I loved to wander through the painting studios and discover new worlds. Then, of course, there were the countless architect parties and architecture trips. Ima and I accompanied our mom to most of her travel studios. I was often the secondary translator for groups of students much older than I, and meanwhile, I got to learn so much. How to assert yourself as a female leader, the 5 points of Le Corbusier, how to use power tools, all about different materialities, how to get around Lima, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo, and how good design can make one feel. It was empowering to feel how much she trusted me. Her students and colleagues were often amazed at how we were along for all of the rides, including summiting Putukusi at ages 5 and 9. And yet to us, it seemed completely normal since it was what we were used to. A few months back, on one of those hard days when I especially missed my mom, I was in the middle of my workday searching for fonts. I stopped in my tracks when I spotted a font called Architect's Daughter. It was the exact message I needed. My computer screen glared back at me saying, "Remember whose daughter you are." My mom was a force, a beloved professor and mentor, a practicing architect, a scholar, an advocate for the Latinx community and broader struggles for racial justice, a dedicated board member at Good Samaritan Family Resource Center and Abada Capoeira. I am perpetually in awe at the ways my mom so gracefully and impeccably devoted herself to her numerous roles while raising us as a single mother. Her tenacity, strength, sharp intellect, sense of humor, compassion, and joy are unmatched, and I am grateful that she nurtured some of that within me. She modeled for me many things that I hold dearly: the necessity of lifelong friendships, to live with generosity, to build and maintain community. She cultivated my love for the arts, and it is because of her that I am doing the work that I do. As we all know, my mom interwove her professional and personal lives, and I find solace in the beautiful tapestry of people that she wove me into. Thank you.
When asked to speak about my mom, it was hard to imagine capturing a lifetime of limitless strength, love, and connection. No matter how hard I try, I don't think I'll ever be able to. My mother was a powerful force, brave and adventurous, always ready to face any challenge with grace. She dedicated her life and her work to lifting up and nurturing those around her. Our time together was cut short, and I will forever wish we had had more. But what we did have was so unbelievably beautiful and impactful. She showed us how to fight for ourselves and for others, how to love, and how to enjoy life. We traveled the world together, and I am so grateful to have seen it through her eyes. She continues to push me to grow, and her love and energy radiate infinitely through the sunshine, the sound of the ocean, and the hummingbirds. I will love her forever and miss her always. In the book, When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron speaks on being intimate with fear, and I feel that my mom embodies her words exactly. Pema says, usually we think that brave people have no fear, but the truth is that they are intimate with fear. The bravest people are cowards too, but go ahead and do things anyhow. The trick is to keep exploring and not bail out, even when we find out that something is not what we thought. My mother never backed down from fear. Te quiero mucho.
Hello, my name is Glenn Walton, and I am Sandra Vivanco's husband. Thank you on behalf of my family and myself for being here today to help celebrate Sandra's life. As many of you know, Sandra was all in on celebrations, and especially celebrating life in all its manifestations. I would also like to give my personal thanks to the people who worked so hard to make today a reality. Lisa and Keith, Dustin, Malia, Sarah, Stephanie, Nick, and Lisa Jonas, and of course, my fantastically talented and lovely stepdaughters, Sophia and Emma. And also a shout out to Cecily Gorfin and CCA Advancements, who has been instrumental in making happen today what I'm about to tell you. I have some exciting news to share. CCA has set up the Sandra Vivanco Diversity Scholarship in order to provide financial support college-wide for women of color, non-binary, transgender, and dreamer students. As you have heard here today, Sandra's work was, at its core, about equity, diversity, and inclusivity, with a focus on contributions of Latin America and Latin American women in particular. Sandra highlighted not only the struggle, the contributions, and beauty of their work, but also the benefits, value, enjoyment, and happiness we all gain when we allow ourselves to experience the possibilities of inclusion. This was her passion, a passion she passed on to her students, indeed, to everyone she came into contact with. I am so happy and proud to announce that during the scholarship's inaugural year, the fund was able to provide financial support to 4 CCA students. Let's hear from one of these students, Anastasia Lusako.
Hi, my name is Anastasia Lusako, and I'm an architecture student here at TCA and a recipient of the Sandra Vivanco Scholarship Award of Spring 2021. I chose to study architecture in CCA because it is a small community where professors can actively help and guide students in a one-on-one level. I also like how the CCA community is so diverse and has a common goal of cultivating creativity and uses that creativity to give back to the society. I hope to become a residential architect in the future, maybe create my own practice someday, and as I am still in my first year of college, I'm curious about many things such as animation, furniture making, and interior design. And I would like to try them all along with my studies as a source of inspiration and a way for me to expand my knowledge in all aspects of art. I would like to thank the donors of the Sandra Vivanco Scholarship for awarding me this wonderful gift, and I hope that it can reach and support more students in the future that hold similar dreams as mine. I wish everyone a safe and a great day.
Sandra has already left an enormous legacy, which is, in many ways, embodied in her students. We can keep her spirit, her enthusiasm, energy, passion, and love of knowledge alive by supporting future students. With your help, we can do that. If you could consider making a contribution, small or large, to the scholarship, whatever feels right to you, we can continue Sandra's legacy. We can help ensure the best opportunity for women of color, non-binary, transgender, and dreamer students on their journey through CCA. Even better, if you could make your contribution a monthly recurring amount, it would help us plan for each year. While Sandra cannot be with us to help nurture the future generations of diversity students at CCA, we can do the next best thing by providing them financial support so that they too can pursue their passion like Sandra did. The information on how to do that is at the bottom of the screen. Again, thank you for helping celebrate Sandra's life and legacy, and for supporting that legacy into the future.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Beal, president of California College of the Arts, and I'm honored to share a few thoughts about Sandra Vivanco as part of this celebration of her work and her truly extraordinary life. Sandra was such a vibrant, engaged member of CCA. We knew for some time that she was ill, but she was such a dynamic part of our community. It's hard for me to absorb the full impact of her absence. We really miss her at CCA. For me, Sandra exemplified generosity. She connected in so many ways and wore so many hats at CCA and in her busy life, as a faculty member, of course, but also as a scholar, a practicing architect, an activist who tirelessly worked to promote diversity in the field, a cherished mentor to so many of her CCA students, and as a devoted mother to her daughters. I always admired how Sandra was able to balance and juggle so many parts of her life and always remain calm, or apparently calm, but still energetic with time for her immense community of family, friends, students, and her colleagues. I'm really thrilled that the Sandra Vivanco Diversity Scholarship, set up in her name, is going to continue to shape future generations of CCA students and also honor Sandra's lifetime of advocacy for and support of underserved and underrepresented communities. Thank you.
Of architectures, Sandra searched far and deep, drawing lines that target communities carrying forth Latin America, in studio among students or clients, or sola, la lectura y escritura, en libros y diarios. How can one imprint design with aspirations for a just society? On flight paths from indifference to the United States, her silvered passport to somewhere else, crowded cities, whole and broken monuments, all reflecting su corazón y pasión. We love you, Sandra.
On behalf of CCA and our extended community, we want to thank everyone behind the scenes for making this memorial possible. Thank you so much for coming to honor Sandra. Let's carry the spirit of her fierce advocacy for women of color and people of color forward. Sandra was enormous in life, and now we have all gained a very powerful ancestor who walks with us. If you would like to share your thoughts and memories of Sandra, we have created a memorial page where you are welcome to contribute. Please look to the chat for that link. And finally, we want to invite all of you to attend the Sandra Vivanco Memorial Lecture featuring the esteemed Mabel Wilson. It is happening Tuesday, April 13th from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you very much. And viva Sandra.